Okay, in this podcast, we're going to be going over Chapter 2, which is going to take a look at the chemicals that are involved with the human body and helping the human body to function correctly. So, chemistry is going to be involved in a lot of different aspects of the human body. Basically, all the different characteristics we talked about in the first chapter, including growth, interacting with the environment, responding to it, reproduction, as well as movement. So we have to have a basic understanding of the chemicals that we're going to be interacting with while we study the physiology of the human body. So there are 6 main elements that make up the human body that are used the most. Oxygen is number 1, 65% of the body weight of your body. Major component of water. It's needed for respiration so that you can get energy from food. Carbon is found in all organic molecules, carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, nucleic acids. That's what you're made of, basically. So carbon's found in anything that makes us alive. Hydrogen, also a major component of water, and is found in almost every other compound that is in the body. Nitrogen we're going to find in our proteins and our nucleic acids. And then we also have calcium, which is found in our bones and teeth. Helps a lot of membranes to function correctly, nerve impulses, muscle contraction. This is an ion that is really an important piece of how the body functions. And then we have phosphorus, also found in the bones and teeth, nucleic acids, and in ATP, which is our energy source. Then we have some other elements that are also found in the body that will play various roles in structure, transport, and doing different chemical reactions, enzyme reactions, and things like that. A lot of these are in ion form, and that's how we will take them in, and that's how we will use them. So when we talk about chemical reactions, basically we're going to be changing one set of chemicals into a different set of chemicals, and we do different kinds of chemical reactions in the body. So we talked about this before. Metabolism is all of the chemical reactions that the body does in order to get energy and provide homeostasis. And to perform all the vital functions. So every chemical reaction that your body does constitutes part of its metabolism. So the chemicals that we actually have to take into our body are called nutrients. So these are elements that have to be taken in through our diet. Metabolites are molecules that can get synthesized or broken down by chemical reactions in our body. So nutrients we have to take in. Metabolites are things that we actually will make through the chemical reactions in our body. These chemicals that we end up making or taking into our body come into 2 categories. There's inorganic and organic compounds. Our inorganic compounds are compounds that do not contain carbon and hydrogen atoms together. So you have to have carbon and hydrogen together in order to have something that is organic. So examples of inorganic compounds are water, carbon dioxide, oxygen, salts, and acids and bases. These are all important components, important chemicals of the human body. So water and carbon dioxide are not organic compounds. They are inorganic. Water is the most important molecule of living things. It is the most abundant compound in living things, 60-80% of the human body. One of the things water can do is provides cushioning for organs. We talked about how there's serous fluid that is between all the membranes in your body, and that's mostly made of water. Okay. It is an essential part of a lot of the chemical reactions we're going to be doing, like making carbohydrates and proteins through dehydration synthesis and breaking those down through hydrolysis. Both of those things involve water. Water is an excellent solvent. That means a lot of things can be dissolved into water and then transported around. So your blood plasma is about 75-80% water with a whole bunch of stuff dissolved in it. Okay. Water also has a high heat capacity. Remember, we are warm-blooded, so we have to have heat evenly distributed throughout our body. We have to be able to adapt to changes in our temperature. And water, because it has a high heat capacity, allows us to do that, and because our blood's mostly water, there's your connection. Carbon dioxide and oxygen. Oxygen is required for the process of cellular respiration, so remember that's how we're going to get our energy from food. And carbon dioxide is the waste product of that reaction. So when you take in food like glucose, and we have oxygen present, we're going to end up making carbon dioxide and water as waste products, but the main point of all of that is to get a whole bunch of ATP. And if you remember, from one glucose molecule, when we have oxygen present, we can get 36 ATP. All right, we also have salts that are important to the body. You have to take in different kinds of salts, and I'm not just talking about sodium chloride, which is your table salt, but salts are any kind of ions that we might talk about. So sodium and potassium you take in, those are essential for nerve transmission. Iron is going to help with hemoglobin and transporting oxygen around the body. And remember, we need oxygen to get energy. Zinc and copper are going to help enzymes work. Magnesium is another one in here that's going to help enzymes work. There's a lot of different ions that we take in the forms of salts that our bodies are going to need for various chemical reactions. All right, pH is also something that has to be regulated in the body. A normal pH for the human body is 6.5 to 7.5. Now remember, neutral pH is 7. And so our body functions the best around pH of 7. And we need to stay around that pH and to stay in homeostasis. Now, enzymes are going to be used in our body to help us speed up chemical reactions, but they only work at very specific pHs. So pH has to be regulated, and is done so by the kidneys, the lungs, and by various buffers made in your body. When we get to the digestive system, we'll talk a lot more about pH. This is very important aspects to digestion and variations in pH that come into play. All right, now when we talk about what your body's actually made of, we're actually talking about organic compounds. Organic compounds are large compounds, and they have both carbon and hydrogen in them. When you hear about organic, you usually think of organic as carbon containing. But there are some inorganic molecules like carbon dioxide. So if you have carbon and hydrogen together, you have an organic compound. There's 4 major categories of organic compounds. You have carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. And ATP falls in with that nucleic acid category. So we're going to take a quick look at each one of these. Carbohydrates. The monosaccharide glucose is the most important metabolic fuel of the body. So this is your major source of energy for the body. We take glucose in through our diet. Okay, so the simple sugars that we take in, which are monosaccharides and disaccharides, are about 50% of our diet. So these are things that you take in different kinds of sugars and things like that. You have polysaccharides that you also can eat, like starch. And then we also can store energy with our polysaccharides, like glycogen. Glycogen is actually an energy store in our liver and in our muscles that are going to allow us to have this storage of carbohydrate for later use. So if you haven't eaten in a while, your body will start to break down glycogen. So again, when we get into the endocrine system, we will talk a little bit more about this. Lipids. Lipids generally are not soluble in water. So you mix oil and water together, they don't mix. Okay, so not soluble means that they cannot dissolve in water. There's 5 main categories of lipids. So fats and oils are things that you consume. Waxes, you can think about waxes like earwax, helps to waterproof things. Steroids make up a lot of our different hormones. And then phospholipids are going to make up our cell membranes. So what do lipids do in the body? Some lipids, like fats, will insulate against heat loss. Okay, so usually the more fat that you have in your body, the more heat you will retain. So somebody who's super skinny is often the coldest person in the room as well. Protection from mechanical damage, so they do provide cushioning. Fats, you have all of your organs are surrounded by fat. Too much fat around your organs can be dangerous, but you do have a layer of fat around each of your organs. Energy storage for later. And they make up a major part of our biological membranes around our cells. And then steroids are the basis for most of our hormones that are produced by the adrenal gland and the reproductive system. So if our reproductive system is going to work, we have to have like testosterone and estrogen and stuff, and those are steroids, which are lipid-based hormones. And then cholesterol is also a steroid-based molecule, and it is needed for vitamin D and bile production. It also helps to strengthen your cell membranes. So you have to take in cholesterol to a certain degree. You also make your own cholesterol. So people that have trouble with their cholesterol is often they're eating too much or making too much. Too much cholesterol mixed with fat gets all sticky and can clog arteries. All right, proteins are our next category. Proteins have various functions in the body. Structurally, they make up your muscles, fingernails, hair, ligaments. All these different parts of your body are actually made of different kinds of proteins. Proteins are also used for transporting substances into and out of cells. They will help to fight diseases. Those specifically are called antibodies. A lot of different kinds of antibodies, and as you get exposed to diseases, you make even more kinds of antibodies. And they can also control chemical reactions, and that happens in the form of enzymes. Enzymes are going to speed up chemical reactions, make them go faster. So without enzymes, it could take you years to digest a meal. With enzymes, you can digest an entire meal in less than 24 hours. All right, and our next group is nucleic acids. Nucleic acids, the DNA and RNA. DNA is going to store and transmit our genetic information. So basically it provides the direction for the proteins that get made in the body, and that allows our body to grow and develop and do all of the things that it needs to do. RNA is actually DNA's helper, so it carries out the instructions for making the proteins. So DNA has all the information, and then RNA is going to help the DNA to do its job. Now, ATP is another kind of nucleic acid, and it is a high-energy molecule, but it's also very unstable. So when we do respiration from glucose, and we're getting the energy from glucose, we store it temporarily in ATP. Okay? Without ATP, we would not be able to make molecules or break molecules down because chemical reactions take energy. We would not be able to actively transport molecules into and out of our cells. So that means that our muscles wouldn't be able to contract, our nerves would not be able to send impulses because we have to get ions into and out of our cells, and it actually takes energy to do that. So we have to have ATP to make that happen. So you're going to see all these different chemicals come up over the year as we talk about how all the different organs work.